All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited today to be having a conversation with my friend Christine, and we're talking all about positive, resilient parenting. My name is Jodie Solberg. I have been in mental and behavioral health for the last 25 years now, working with individuals and families. I am a certified master hypnotherapist. I am a sleep talk method consultant for parents of kiddos who are 18 months to 18 years, as well as hypnobirthing and prenatal bonding educator. So my background is social and clinical psychology, as well as pre and perinatal psychology. And I help families with things like trauma, anxiety, neurodiversity, and attachment. So that is my background when we're talking about positive, resilient parenting. And Christine, I would love for you to introduce yourself to everyone, tell them what you do and how you help people. And then we'll get into what positive, resilient parenting is.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so looking forward to this conversation on resilience and positive parenting. I too am in mental health. I've been in mental health for about 25 years. I have master's and PhD training in counseling psychology with a specific focus on positive psychology and resilience. And of those two, probably resilience is my deep specialty. And with that, I work with people of all ages clinically, and also consult with people on resilience, also people of all ages. I've done workshops, I've done all kinds of talks all over the world and all over the country, teaching people more about resilience and how to become more resilient from a scientific kind of perspective. I am also a professor of psychology at several colleges on the East Coast in New Jersey, and I also work clinically, like I said, of all ages, from little ones until older ones, and in all ages, families, kids, individuals of all kinds as well. So resilience is what I love to do, and I'm looking forward to this conversation to talk more about it.
Yes, so am I. And I know when we initially had our first conversation together, we have a lot in common with working with all different ages and our 25 years of different experience. But so much has to do with resilience, like you said. And it's something you speak about, like you said, all over the country, all over the world. So I'm excited to ask you some questions today and really share some of our knowledge around resilience in parenting and why that's such an important concept. So I think the first question that I have is really, what is it? So what is resilience in parenting, and why is it crucial for both parents and children to build resilience? So I'm going to let you, as the resident expert in resilience, answer that one and tell everybody who's watching, if they're not quite sure what that means, what it is.
Yeah, so resilience is about the ability to kind of adapt and be flexible and learn in times of difficulty or times of challenge or even times of trauma. And oftentimes people think, well, if I'm resilient, that means that I don't have any obstacles, I don't have any challenges, I don't have any problems. And that's actually kind of not the right definition. It is more about experiencing everything that life has to offer, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and then learning how to be flexible and to grow despite those challenges. And so we live in this very fast-paced world, and we really do have to learn to be flexible in many different arenas, whether it's school, whether it's transitions, whether it is challenges that we're experiencing, and then again, also something as severe as traumas and challenges that we may experience as well. So it's not about just kind of discarding those traumas and pretending like they didn't happen. It's how to navigate those challenges and to come out on the other side, thriving, flourishing, using our strengths, and being the best that we can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it, like you said, it isn't an all or nothing. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has stress. Everyone has setbacks. And so if we're able to boost our resilience, we can have that calm and confidence and stability, and parents can model for their children how to adapt to those difficulties. And it really helps so much. I talk about burnout a lot. So it helps so much when we're talking about, caregiver burnout from careers, from all the things really. And it makes a big difference for parents with that self-doubt and guilt and feeling pulled in so many different directions, also modeling those healthy coping strategies to their kids, creating that nurturing environment where children can safely express themselves and grow. And so it benefits everyone because it really makes such a huge impact on families when it's something that they can learn together. And so I know that there are challenges like we talked about. So what do you feel like are some of the biggest challenges that parents face when they're trying to be more resilient?
Yeah, again, there could be lots of transitions that they're going through, personal transitions, whether it's moving or job changes or family dynamic changes that are occurring. But then we have more larger issues in the news, social media, the use of how much to use with their cell phones, peer relationship, bullying. All of these different things can definitely impact our kids and how they feel about themselves and how they develop in the world. And then also maybe academic challenges, or where are my skills and how can I apply those things? These are all areas where we definitely need to help our children to boost their resilience muscles, which the good thing about resilience, it's a muscle to kind of build throughout our lives. So it's not just I wake up one morning and I'm magically resilient. It is something that I kind of persevere through. And in doing so, that resilience muscle grows. A lot of times we want to run away from our problems and hide under a rock when we have challenges, which sounds kind of cozy and comfortable, but that's not how we grow, unfortunately. So we really have to face our challenges, talk them through, nonverbal cues, the words that we choose, build our listening skills. All these things will build resilience.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Like you said, it can be so appealing, right? Just to go hide and not deal with things, but it doesn't flex that muscle, doesn't build that skill of really dealing with that adversity. And, I know that there can be a lot of guilt with parents feeling like they're not doing enough or feeling overwhelmed trying to manage their own stress and be modeling these things for their kids, or the pull of those old generational patterns and habits, and learning those parenting styles. And I think that when we're looking at our busy lives and everything that we have going on with work and home and taking care of family and taking care of ourselves and trying to avoid burning out and doing all of those things, it can be so easy to fall back into those old unhealthy habits and coping strategies. And when parents often will say, I know what I don't want to repeat, right, from my upbringing, for example, but I'm not sure what else to do. What do I do instead? I think that resilience is a huge piece of that. And for me, that self-awareness is always that first step, right? Being aware so that parents can recognize their triggers, their old subconscious patterns, and shift to being more intentional, being able to hit that pause button and then choose how to respond versus react or just hiding in their shell and not dealing with things. And then it comes back to bite us later when we do that, doesn't it? It's like a little pressure cooker is how I always think of it. If we don't deal with things, they build up until they blow up. And so really pausing, reflecting, learning how to respond, and knowing that it's okay to be learning and figuring it out.
Yes.
That, it's exactly what you said. It isn't a flip of a switch. It's not that all or nothing again. I think a lot of times people can revert to that all or nothing thinking, and it isn't, I'm just automatically resilient now. It does take practice. It does take time, and it takes intention to build that skill.
Absolutely.
And so how do you feel that a parent's own childhood experiences, since I just touched on that a little bit, shape their resilience as a parent?
Well, we tend to repeat patterns, good and bad. They're comfortable. It makes it easier for your brain to process. It's almost on autopilot. I'm just going to repeat those patterns that I either grew up with, whether they're good or bad. And so you really do have to become intentional and have good self-awareness of what am I doing and how are these patterns continuing, And are they beneficial for my growth and my thriving or not? And if I'm repeating patterns, I may or may not be looking also at my strengths. And so, for making our children resilient, it is really important that they first build a strong connection with us so that they can come to us with their struggles, with their challenges. And then we help them not necessarily by rescuing, unless there's something that is really dangerous that they're facing, but to step in with them and kind of guide them and shape them with creative problem solving and learning about what their skills and their talents and their strengths are. And ask them questions and be open-minded about those questions, and be open to looking for solutions that are creative, labeling their emotions as they go. It's really important to have emotional intelligence, know what we're feeling, and using that information as data also to also build our resilience. And so as a parent, if you don't have the right coping skills, it's important for you to grow those so that you can, again, model them for your children. And there's not, sometimes in some situations, there's not a silver lining. But did I learn something? Is there something that I have learned in this situation that I can apply moving forward? And so as long as you keep getting up, you keep trying, you keep persevering, you may lose a small battle here and there, but let's not lose the entire war and give in to all of the challenges. But what did I learn from this situation that I'm in right now? And that helps us to establish meaning, which helps us to establish resilience.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so important to be growing, learning, figuring it out, becoming better, because it's a journey. It's not that destination of, okay, now I'm the perfect parent, and taking that pressure and expectation off of ourselves to do that, and to, be figuring it out. And that's okay. It's okay to be growing in those skills, and your child will benefit from you growing in those skills. We need to learn how to do that for ourselves so that we can pass those things on. And so there is going to be an exercise in patience, and learning how to pause, and learning how to respond and be able to guide. But like you said, not jump in to fix things, because that's the other thing that often happens is just want to jump in and fix it all and do it for them, which doesn't allow them to learn and grow and figure it out for themselves too. And so, as we're doing that, teaching them that they can figure it out too, and that it's okay, that they can be mistakes, that there can be learning experiences, that that's how we figure it out. If we don't, jump in and just fix everything, then it's going to empower them as well as empower ourselves to do that. I always think of it in more simplistic terms, but as, when your child's learning how to walk or learning how to tie their shoes, and if you just jump in there and do it for them and pick them up, or just always jump in and tie their shoes for them, never going to figure it out on their own. And how many times does it take of crawling and standing up and then sitting back down in order to learn how to walk? It's quite a few, right? And there's still some stumbles along the way, and we all fall from time to time, and that's okay. But it's about that first lesson in resilience. They pick themselves right back up and try it again. Right?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And so if we continue to allow them the space to grow and learn, they will build resilience in so many other ways too.
Yes, absolutely. They need to know that we're there for them to kind of fall back on us if there's an issue, but that we also believe in them, that they have the confidence to be able to kind of try this new thing on their own and to explore. And those kinds of parents, are, yes, they have expectations of their kids and, rules and parameters and all those things that are good for guidance and discipline, but also that, there's mutual respect and there's growth with that mutual respect, because I know somebody has my back when things get a little bit difficult. And so it's first and foremost, they need to make good connections with these parents, but also who else is in their community, in their village. It takes a village to raise a child, right? So who else is in their little village that is going to help them to grow and help them to not see situations as insurmountable, how can we accept this challenge? How can we make good decisions? And there's tons of people that can kind of pour into these kids and show them how to do things and model the right behaviors, and helping them to, nurture this kind of positive sense of self, that I can do this even when things are difficult, and to keep things in perspective when things are difficult. Oftentimes we have like this tunnel vision when there's a problem and all we see is the problem. But again, when we have a village around us that is supporting us, that is encouraging us, it removes those blinders and we get to see things on a larger perspective. And it helps us to have a more hopeful outlook, which is also important when things kind of seem dark all around us. So that's really helpful as well.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned emotional intelligence, which is another one of my favorite topics,
Mhm.
and how resilience is a piece of that.
Yes.
So, what are some key traits that you would say if we're looking at a parent
Mhm.
or a child? What
Mhm.
are those traits of that higher emotional intelligence as it relates to resilience?
Yeah, absolutely. Emotion intelligence is absolutely key because it is a social skill, but it's also a personal skill. So, from the personal perspective, I need to have a lot of self awareness, like we talked about. Where are my triggers? Where are my weak links? Where are my challenges? Where are my strengths? Not just the weak links. And we want to use those strengths to build the weaker areas. And so, having great self awareness, and using that emotion as data, like what need is missing, what do I need to apply here, what do I need to improve on, what am I feeling and why. And again, oftentimes feelings are uncomfortable and I want to go hide under that rock again. But it's really important to feel that information as data, to sit with it. What is it telling me? And to also know that emotions are like waves, they come and go. Sometimes they're really high waves and sometimes they're lower waves, but there's still information that I need to know. The next thing after that is, once I figured out those emotions, is to figure out how to self-regulate them. So they're not in control of me, I'm in control of them. And I do have that data and I can use that data to build relationships, to build connections, to go and obtain those needs in a healthy way rather than stuffing them down or blowing up. Like you said, it's a pressure cooker, right? Then after that, we have some more social skills. Then how do I apply that to empathetically understand another person? What are other people around me experiencing, and how can I build my relationships with them? Because again, I need that village, and that village needs me, and I'm part of their village. And so having that empathy helps me to relate to another human, to cry with people that are crying, and to be joyful with people that are joyful, and not to kind of skirt away when somebody is experiencing a challenge, but to help each other along. So empathy is the next thing there. And then finally, we need to build some social skills, which are communication, understanding social cues, understanding, again, when people are going through a difficulty, how to help them, how to build a sense of community. Because the good thing about resilience is that it's not just you by yourself. And research even tells us, even if there is one consistent other person in my life, it really contributes to that resilience. So I need to build social skills so I can build that community, so I have multiple people to lean on and they can lean on me when there are challenges. I'm not by myself trying to figure it all out. A big part of resilience is about mobilizing resources, all kinds of resources. And one way to do that is to build those social skills.
I love that, because it is so important that parents realize they don't have to do everything by themselves.
Yeah.
That, reaching out for that support and creating that system around them is really key. And like you said, being emotionally aware,
Mm-hmm.
very, very important. So then we
Mm-hmm.
can be more adaptable and we don't shut down when faced
Mm-hmm.
with difficulties. And we do feel like we have someone that we can lean on and go to. And with the kids, that they feel like they can do that with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
That it's really important, being open to them
Mm-hmm.
coming to you for that guidance and encouraging independence to solve
Mm-hmm.
some of those own problems, but
Mm-hmm.
not hyper independence to the point where they don't feel like they
Mm-hmm.
come to you if there is an
Mm-hmm.
issue. Really validating their emotions. And so, like you said, parents being able to feel empathy and have that understanding
Mm-hmm.
for their children, and then their children being able to take that out into the world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And focusing on getting away from that all or nothing thinking. That growth mindset is so important, not just focusing on that flip of the switch, that all or nothing, or win or lose, the effort, not just the results of really, encouraging growth and learning, and modeling that emotional regulation, which means they have to figure that out for themselves, how to regulate. And when we get dysregulated, not everyone's, going to be regulated all of the time, of course, to really be able to share, okay, and this is how I deal with this. And really being the example, right, for those healthy coping strategies, that it's okay to have those emotions, but like you said, it's like a wave. You can feel them and let them pass. And when you mentioned earlier about, when we just kind of hide under the rock and don't want to deal with things, that's when those emotions get stuck and begin to bottle up and go into that pressure cooker, because we're just saying, I'm too busy, I can't deal with this right now. And then it doesn't pass. With those positive emotions, that happens all the time. We feel a good emotion, we laugh, somebody tells a really funny joke and you laugh, and then it's past and you move on to the next thing. And if we don't have resilience, then a lot of times what can happen with the negative emotions is then we don't deal with them, and then we stay stuck in them for a much longer period of time than is healthy for us. And so, if we can regulate for ourselves and handle stress in a healthier way and show that to that next generation, it will break those cycles and those patterns. That it's so much easier to use that old pathway that has been worn in for decades often. But when you pause, then you can choose the new one. You can choose to respond differently. So I resonate with everything that you're talking about. So how do you feel that parents can regulate their emotions in real time when they're facing a challenging moment? Let's say their kid's having a meltdown, or there's a really difficult situation. What are some tips that you have for regulating and modeling that in those moments?
To first recognize that this is hard, and we're not going to be on top of things all the time and be the perfect model at every minute of every day for the rest of our lives. There's no such thing as perfection. It is more about perseverance and trying, and you are also growing as a parent, especially if you've never been a parent before, or even if you have. Each kid is different. So even with the next kid, it's going to be a little bit different than maybe the first kid or the first two kids or whatever. And so recognizing that I am having a moment myself, and that I'm human, and that that's okay, but that I will get through this. Take a deep breath. If you don't need to handle everything in that second, if you're also dysregulated, and it's probably better that you don't when you're agitated yourself, but give yourself a second, 30 seconds, a minute to calm down, and then deal with that situation. You'll be able to do it more, much better. You also want to pick your battles. You don't want to get into a power struggle with your kids. Again, it's all about the connection first. And so if I make a connection with them and talk about what they're feeling, and it may sound like, a little bit kind of, should I really be doing this, talking to them about their feelings? They may not get it either if they're in the middle of this meltdown. But if I'm in a meltdown and they're in a meltdown, that's not going to help. So it's about making a connection first. And again, using that empathy. I can see that you're really struggling right now. How about we take a couple of deep breaths together, and then in about 5 minutes, we can figure this out and work through this issue. But you are human, and you're going to experience emotions as well. And yes, you should be in control, but when you're in control, you're going to be able to control the situation. If you're feeling dysregulated or chaotic yourself, which is human, take a minute and then come back and deal with it productively.
Yeah, and I love that you said you can share that with your child. That, I see you're upset, I'm upset too. It's okay. Let's take some deep breaths together. Let's take a few minutes, then we can come back together. So that is such a great way to model. And like you said, nobody's going to get it perfect all the time. There's no such thing. Right. But you can also come back and talk about how something was handled and
Mm-hmm.
how you'd like to now handle it differently. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay too. We can show that we're real people
Mm-hmm.
and that we're learning and growing because it gives them permission
Mm-hmm.
to do that as well. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to pretend to know how to do everything in every moment just the right way. We can also model
Mm-hmm.
imperfection and
Mm-hmm.
progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love
I
that.
like that. Imperfection and progress. That is resilience. So
That is
it's
in a
both
nutshell.
simultaneously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so Christina, I would love for you to share a little bit about what you do and how you help people when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to resilience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so understanding the areas that somebody may be stuck, it could be in their work, it could be in their relationship, it could be in their parenting, it could also be for businesses, groups, whatever is necessary. So figuring out where the stuck points are and how they became stuck in that place, then we want to identify their character strengths and then also model how resilience is both about flexibility and adaptability, but it's also about learning. So, how can we make this about a learning curve and learning about what contributions they can give with their current skills and then also how to grow from there? What skills are you using to cope with this strategies and with where the struggles are? But also, how do we build confidence and the ability to be competent in that situation? Mostly, we are leaning on those character strengths and also leaning on other areas where they have been resilient in the past. All of us are here in this moment all together because we've been resilient at some moment or another. So, what from our personal immune system can we pull to kind of help us in this current situation as well? So, we've been resilient in the past. What has worked? What has not? What has helped us to grow? What has not? And again, how do we build that resilience muscle over time? It's about, again, knowing yourself really well, having that great self awareness, and then applying those tools that are our strengths to help us with our weaknesses. The great things about our character strengths are they're things that are built inside of us that we find valuable and helpful. And so pulling those and leaning on those is what's going to help us to kind of recover from this difficulty, but also through flexibility and growth in that moment.
Love that. And you mentioned this a couple times, and I wanted to pull that out, the piece
Mm-hmm.
about your strengths, because I
Mm-hmm.
also love to talk about strengths.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is really important is to
Mm-hmm.
know them
Mm-hmm.
and to work in them, because
Mm-hmm.
that can help you through a lot of challenges and help you become more resilient. I know so many people,
Mm-hmm.
when you ask them what their strengths are,
Mm-hmm.
they go blank and they don't really have an answer. But like you
Mm-hmm.
said, everybody is here because you've been
Mm-hmm.
resilient
Right.
and been able to lean into
Mm-hmm.
those strengths. So getting to know yourself, getting more
Mm-hmm.
connected
Mm-hmm.
with what have you built resilience through and what
Mm-hmm.
are those strengths that have helped support you along the
Mm-hmm.
way? What have you
Mm-hmm.
already learned and grown from?
Mm-hmm.
Because often we don't recognize ourselves enough for those things and
Mm-hmm.
how then we can utilize them
Mm-hmm.
for future situations that we're
Mm-hmm.
going through. So there's so much stress and things going on in the world and transition that happens in
Mm-hmm.
life, whether that's, like you said, in careers and
Mm-hmm.
relationships and moves. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that we can give ourselves credit for having been resilient through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and research has kind of identified these 24 character strengths, values in action, they're called. Character strengths, which again we can lean on, and everybody has them. They just have them in a different order. So we have a different kind of combination. So you and I have the same 24, but they're in a different order and a different combination. And it's deeply embedded into our personality, and we even use them probably without even realizing. So we have to kind of highlight them, put a spotlight on them, and say, this is what we're using for our strengths. It could be creativity or authenticity or zest for life or a sense of bravery or a sense of hope, curiosity. All these things are great strengths that if I pull them out, or even if I, again, have self awareness, I can pay attention to when I'm using them. And so let's utilize those a little bit more and use them to fix any weaknesses, but also to help us to be adaptable, flexible, and learning in these situations.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pull them out, be aware. Because awareness is always that first step, right? Be more
Absolutely.
self-aware. Yeah. So where can people find you, Christine, if they want to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, so I have a website, careresilience.com. So I'm going to just put that in here. And people can reach me there through the website. And it's basically my first and last initial, CA, resilience.com. It's one word. And if you mush it all together, it's C.A.R.E Resilience. And it's the Center for Authentic Resilient Empowerment. So caresilience.com. There they can book a shorter free consultation, and then we will, have more longer talks and conversations and identification of strengths, find areas where we can use those strengths to bolster anything that is a little bit weaker. So yeah, C.A.R.E Resilience has information and ways to reach me and ways to book consultation appointments.
Fantastic. I'm going to pop that up on the screen here. And then if you are interested in learning more about what I do and the different programs that I offer as a hypnotherapist, as a parenting consultant, and as a hypnobirthing and prenatal bonding specialist, you can also find me at psychedupsuccess.com. So I will make sure that both of our websites are going to be listed underneath the video here. But I want to ask you, Christine, before we go, I would like to know what your takeaway is. What is one thing that you would like for people to know about building resilience in parenting to close out?
Yeah, that resilience is always possible. It is never too late to start resilience, to build that muscle. It is a lifelong muscle to build. And so, even in this moment, if you don't feel very resilient, it is still a place that we can start to work, to learn about your strengths, to learn about scientifically how to build this muscle called resilience. And parents, you are amazing people that are doing amazing things, raising the next generation. And so it is a really good tool to add to our tool belt on how to become more resilient and to raise our kids in a more resilient world, which needs a lot of adaptability as things are shifting constantly all the time. So what better way to do that than to build more resilience from a scientific perspective?
Absolutely. I love that so much. The most important thing is to be kind to ourselves and know that we're learning and growing right
Hmm.
alongside our kids and that that's okay. It's
Hmm.
not about getting it right all the time. It's
Hmm.
about really showing up with love and learning, focusing on that progress and not perfection
Hmm.
and adapting.
Hmm.
And children don't need perfect parents, right? If you're present and you're mindful and
Hmm.
you're aware,
Hmm.
that is such a great first
Hmm.
step, building that resilience for yourself and for them. So thank you so much, Christine. It was so wonderful to have you
Thank
here
you.
with me and to have this conversation with you. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you spending the
Thank
time with us. You're welcome. And I appreciate everyone for watching. So please let us know if you have any questions. You can reach out to us on our websites or
you.
just put a comment
Hmm.
and we will make sure to answer your questions. So thank you so much again. Take care
Thank
and
you.
we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.